Hi my friends, welcome back to the Quack House. My name is Anna and I am the maker and creator behind Quack House Crochet. I am also the maker and creator behind this fabulous mom bun. If you are new to the channel, I'm so glad to have you here, and if you are a returning friend, welcome back. Okay, this week has been busy. I've got some fun news, I've got some exciting news, I got some really cool makes. At least I think they're really cool. Y'all might be over them because for the most part, they're not really new patterns. They've been around for a while, but I'm very happy to say that with the exception of one pattern, with the exception of one pattern that I have to show you today, everything I made is brand new to me this past week. So, we'll just dive right into it, shall we? So happy post-Valentine's Day to all of you who celebrated Valentine's or Galentine's Day. We had a super low-key one here at our house, at the Quack House, but it was so sweet. So Mr. Quack House, I'm sure y'all know by now, he just goes above and beyond. It was really sweet. He got both me and Ducky some blankets, but what was even sweeter was Saturday for actual Valentine's Day. He made us breakfast, and after breakfast, I think, or right before, I can't remember now. It's Monday. Saturday was many millennia ago with this mom brain. He made us breakfast, and then sometime around breakfast, sometime in the morning, he surprised us with our gifts. Yeah, that's right, our gifts. So Ducky was, of course, very gifted. And he had actually made comic books for us. They're so sweet. My comic book was about how we met and our little like story. And then Ducky's comic book was just about like a typical day in the life that they spend together. It was just the sweetest thing. And then later in the day, she wanted to make him a comic book. He's the best. And because he is the best, I wanted to make him something. So if y'all don't know, like I said, my husband is my biggest supporter. He's always encouraging me, always like lifting me up, and he's just like really proud of the work that I do too, which is, it's so nice to have. And so he's always asking me to make him things. And his biggest complaint about my business is that I don't make him the things that he asks me to make him. Now, he does some like construction type work, and so a lot of the stuff he asked me to make is related to his work. And so I thought, what better way to like, or what better thing to gift him on Valentine's Day than something that was related to that. So let me show you what I made him. If you follow me on Instagram at Quack House Crochet, then you've already seen this, but I was just so tickled by how this came out. It is a little Mr. Quack House. Now, Ducky was very quick to point out, she's like, where's his beard? Girl, I tried to give him a beard. It did not look the best. Which is a testament to my limited embroidery skills. But with that being said, I'm thrilled with how the rest of him came out. So I specifically ordered Parfait Chunky in these neon colors to do this. So this is like their, like I said, it's the neon lines in the neon line and whatever the orange and the bright yellow are. I use that neon green quite a bit when I make my little Ninja Turtles, but I'd never used it to make anything like this before, or like I'd never used any of the other colors, I guess. I have the pink to make flamingos, but I still haven't started or even done that project. But this guy was just so cute. I literally like ran downstairs before I made it because I couldn't remember if his shirt for work was the orange color or the yellow color. So I literally ran downstairs and I figured out what color it was, and then I ran back upstairs. And then the only thing I'm like mad about is that I googled what color their little construction hats were. And in every picture I saw, they were white. If I had just looked in his car, I would have seen that his construction hat, I can't even remember what it is now, but I think it's either orange or it's either the orange or the yellow. If I had just looked in his car, I would have seen that his hat, his hard hat is there, and I could have matched the color. But you know what, I'm still happy with how it came out, and I referred him to the Google image search that showed me that they wear white hats. So this is him. This is a modded pattern from Todd and James. I'm a member of her Patreon, and so on her Patreon she has the, I think it's called her Itty Bitty People pattern, and this particular pattern pack I believe comes with a fireman, a mailman, maybe a police officer, and something else. I can't remember what it is, but I took the fireman one because it had the closest hat to like a hard hat, and this is what I modded it to. And all I did to modify this was figure out how to switch up the colors, and then this yellow is just a little bit of embroidery. But this was such a quick and easy make, which kind of makes me feel like I copped out a little bit for Valentine's Day. But when I showed this to him, like, he really loved it. And like, the best thing so far has been that like Ducky will pick it up and she now calls this little daddy. So she's like, little daddy, and then he was doing this thing where he was like playing with her and directing traffic, and so she was like, hey, you go over there, go over here, go over there. And so it's like little daddy's directing traffic, but she's like gone to sleep with him and stuff. I actually stole this back from him to show it to you in this video, but he said he's going to take it to work tomorrow and show it off, which is really sweet. But yeah, I just wanted to start off with that pattern because it was so much fun to make. Madeline Mako, or well, Todd and James now, but she makes such fun patterns, and this one was completely no sew with the exception of the hat. Yeah, I crocheted the arms in, so this was completely no sew with the exception of the hat. And I guess really you could leave the hat off if you wanted to like add hair or whatever. His hair is very difficult, all right? He's one of those guys who has like the fade and stuff. So if I couldn't get a beard, I wasn't gonna get a full head of hair. But so this is what I made for him. That was my little joy project this week. Actually, a lot of these sparked joy because they were so new. Yeah, I was just really excited with the work that I've got done, and I've got some really like exciting news. At least it's exciting to me. So everything I made this week is in preparation for 2 events, with the exception of one, which is the repeat pattern that I did, and 2 pattern tests. So I'm going to start with showing you the pattern test, and then we'll talk about the events. I'll show you the commission really quick because you've seen it before. So guys, I don't know why I do it to myself. Actually, no, this is why I do it. I go on Instagram, I see all of these amazing patterns that people are releasing, and I want to try them all. I really, really do. Like, there's just so many wonderful things people are making, and I'm always like, oh, you know, I'll just try. Well, I just tried about 6 or 7 times or something. I got 4. Got 4, and I wasn't expecting that at all. Well, I was expecting 1, but yeah, and it's because it was a Crochet by Jenna pattern, and I'm a member of her Patreon, and so patrons automatically have the opportunity to test. But I wasn't expecting to get into as many as I did. And so on top of market prepping, I've got a little bit of the stress of pattern testing, but let me just stop yapping and show you the 2 pattern tests that I did this week. So the first one is right here. This is the Sitting Elephant pattern from Crochet by Jenna, and this is the very famous elephant mod. I will not say his name, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But this was so cute. I just used all Premier Parfait Chunky for this because I don't know when it happened, but I somehow managed to acquire quite a bit of gray yarn in Premier Parfait Chunky, and I haven't used it. For some reason, whenever I make projects in gray, I tend to favor Bernat Blanket, and now I've acquired a little bit more of a collection of Elise Voluto, and they don't have the best grays. So I've been favoring Bernat Blanket, and for me at least, Bernat Blanket and Elise Voluto, they work out okay together. They work out pretty good together. But I did have, and I wanted to make him gray, a lot of gray in Premier Parfait Chunky. So this is how big he turns out in Premier Parfait Chunky, and he's so cute. So in her pattern, she has the, you know, obviously the elephant, but she also has this collar accessory, this hat accessory, and then a bow accessory. Now the bow is so cute, but I had to do this one. Fun fact for you, I love elephants. I love elephants with all my heart and soul. And the only reason why I don't have more elephants on display all over my home, my life, and everything is because I love my duck more. Since I've had my daughter, ducks have taken over my life, but elephants have always been my favorite animal. And so I love elephants. Dumbo, I'm okay with. Like, the movie wasn't one of the standouts for me, maybe because it was before my time, but it's a classic, right? But I don't know why Dumbo in and of itself wasn't like my favorite movie, but I love the elephant Dumbo. He's so cute. And so when I saw this one, I just had to make him. He's just the cutest thing. The only thing you have to sew is the head to the body. You make the feet, you make the arms ahead of time, you surface crochet the tail in. If you opt for the hat, you can either choose to leave it off or sew it on. I opted to sew it on because I like to do that. And I stuffed it a little bit just so, you know, it doesn't just like press flat when you who's going to be doing that? Me. And then this one, I believe in her pattern you kind of just secure it around the neck, but I wanted to sew it in just for a little extra security, so I sewed it in. And I love this. He's not really a splooter, he's like a semi-splooter because these arms don't really go forward as much, but these back legs sploot out to the side. And here's just, oh, he's so darling. He's so darling, and I love him so much. This pattern was released at the time I'm recording this video. It is February 16th. It's Monday, so this pattern was released today. And I'm trying something different with my pattern links. Now, instead of including them in the description below, I've created a Google Doc, so you can click on that Google Doc and it will take you to all of the patterns I'm talking about. So it lists the patterns, it lists who the creators are. If it's a free pattern, it's there. And I'm still toying with the idea of whether or not I want to include a column that indicates whether it's like low/no sew. And the reason I'm hesitant on that is because, to me, for example, when you create a pattern and all you have to sew on is the head, obviously that's a low sew, but then like if I sewed this on, if I'm sewing on 3 or more pieces, is it still considered low sew? What do you consider a low sew pattern? Like, is it based on number of pieces, or is it based on how hard the pieces are to sew together? You tell me what you think down below in the comments. But yeah, so I'm doing that in a Google Doc down below. And if the pattern has a paid version and a free version. I try to link both of those. There's one, for example, like the Mega Ray from Teresa's Crochet Shop. The Mega Ray pattern isn't free, but that Mega Ray pattern also comes with the Mini Ray patterns, and the Mini Ray patterns are a free tutorial on her YouTube. So what I did was I put like a little note in the free column and I linked that note to the YouTube tutorial, but the main link has the paid pattern. So explore, and if there's something missing, let me know. But I figured updating that, because I do talk about these patterns, especially Spider-Man. I've been talking about him quite a bit, but I do talk about a lot of the patterns that I use multiple times. So I figured what I would do is I would just start linking them in a Google Doc, because that's a lot easier to maintain and just to keep repasting the link than to have to remember exactly which patterns I spoke about in each video and then run the risk of missing one, and then I feel bad because I'm not giving somebody the credit that's due to them. So we're gonna try that. But yeah, this is the Sitting Elephant by Crochet by Jenna. I am going to be taking this to my next market, which I will be talking about, and I'm probably gonna price this guy at, I'm thinking about $45. I think that's what I'm gonna do for him. So this is not Dumbo. The next pattern test that I did was really cute, and it is a pattern by somebody I've never tested for before. Her name is Yarn Bubbles on Instagram, and she came out with a tester call. So I grew up on Guam, and Guam is very close to Japan and Korea and China and a bunch of places. But so we have a lot of like that Asian influence both in our food and in our pop culture. And one of the sets of characters, I guess, or well, growing up, I should say, something that was really popular, which is still popular now, are Sanrio characters. Not just Hello Kitty, I'm talking about Kuropi, My Melody, Bats Maru, and Bats Maru was a particular favorite of mine. Pochako was as well, because he's a dog. I don't know if I'm saying all of these names correctly, but I really love the Sanrio patterns. And so when I saw this pattern test go out, I was like, oh, please, I really want to do it. And I was so happy to be like, it was one of those ones where it was like I applied and then I hadn't heard anything for a while, and so I was like, oh, okay, you know, I didn't get chosen, I'll buy it when it comes out. And then she messaged me and she was like, hey, did you still want to test? I was like, yes please. And it's just this guy right here. I get all the aggressive, like, I get what is it called, like the cute aggression when I see this. So this is a Bats Maru boba, and it is meant to be like an Earl Grey latte or an Earl Grey boba. And I really like, so in the pattern that she's releasing, I believe she has Bats Maru, definitely Hello Kitty, and I feel like there's one more. And on her Etsy already, she has a boba pattern for Cinema Roll. So this is, I wouldn't consider this low-sew, because for this particular character, you have to individually make all of the spikes, feathers, sew them on, you make the straw separately, you sew it on, you make the beak separately, you sew it on. If you crochet these bobas, you will also have to sew them on. I cut out felt because that was an option she gave me. And it wasn't until afterwards that I was like, are my boba quite large? I like big bobas and I cannot lie. And then this is just felt up here as well. So I really love this guy. It is so cute to see Ducky interact with him, because she always tries to drink from the straw, and I have to constantly tell her, like, don't put your mouth on that because someone's gonna buy it, hopefully. But the other thing is that you don't have to sew this top part up to the cup part. That gets crocheted right on. Now I will say, in the pattern, this part for me was a little bit tricky, just to kind of figure out how to orient the pieces. Once I did, and I took a good look at the pictures, and I of course offered my suggestion and put in the notes that because it's listed as a beginner pattern, she might want to offer just a few more clarifying tips. But this was really easy and really fun to make, and just like as it shaped up, like I was so excited because it was so cute. The minute this pattern is released, and it will be released on Wednesday, so if you're watching this video when it's released on Tuesday, it'll be tomorrow, February 17th, Wednesday. When this, what was I saying? Oh yeah, when this pattern is released, I will be buying all of them, and I'm going to make haste to do that, and I'll explain why in a little bit. The other thing I wanted to say though quickly before I get into this next like rant is that in here, I don't know if you can hear that, but she does recommend that you put like a piece of cardboard in here, like cut it out to the bottom, just so that it doesn't, like when you stuff it, like the stuffing doesn't make it bulge, so that it can stand on its own, you know what I mean? So the bottom doesn't get rounded out, and I opted to do that. Now, my original intention was to take this and to put it in one of the drink carriers. I have been saving a drink carrier because on Instagram there's a free boba bear pattern that I really want to make, and I've just never gotten around to do it. But I thought what would be a cute idea is to take the boba bear just when I made them and then put them in a drink carrier and put them on my table to display. But as I brought this down to look at the drink carrier, he's a little thick. He's a little chunky, and so I don't think that's going to be a feasible option. But I'm really excited to have this guy and the Hello Kitty and the other iterations of this boba out on my table. Now, the reason why I say I'm going to make haste to buy these patterns as soon as they're released is because if you've been on Instagram, I've seen a lot of creators recently, and I guess I kind of do, but I don't know if there was like a specific incident that spurred it. But I've noticed a lot of creators lately have been talking about how AI is targeting patterns who have copywritten characters or similarities to copywritten characters. And I don't know if it's that these creators are being issued cease and desists, or if they're just like automatically taking them down, and then on Etsy like warning that they're going to shut down their shops or whatever. But a lot of creators have come out recently on Instagram, like within the last couple of days, and they've basically said, hey, we're taking everything that looks like a copywritten character on our Etsy down. Some of the patterns I'm going to show you today are actually affected by that, or if they're not already, they're going to be affected by it. I still included them in my pattern spreadsheet, but what I did was, instead of like making a link to the actual pattern, I made a link to the creator, like to their Etsy shop, because I think especially now when, and I get it, right? Like I get why they do that, but there's another part of me that like feels for these creators who have put their hearts and souls into like designing these patterns, because I feel like for maybe even quite a few of them, this was like their specialty, was like the character work, and it's gonna hit a big like piece of their livelihood. So if we can go out and if we can support them in some other way by purchasing other patterns, or even just like, you know, boosting their Etsy shops, boosting their socials by giving them a like or a follow or something along those lines, and I'm hoping that will help. I'm a small fry, right? I'm a small fish in a big pond, so I'm just trying to think of things I can do to help support other creators who put in a lot of hard time and work that I'm appreciative of, because they don't realize it, but they help out me and my family. So if I can do something small like that. But all of that to say that when this pattern, when these other patterns come out, I'm going to be purchasing them. I'm going to purchase the cinnamon roll one, and then I'm going to make a bunch of these because I think they would be perfect for my very first con. That's right. So I'm gonna put Bassmara away. When I did my Maricopa market, my first market of 2026, that was, I think, the last video I put up. Somebody had approached me. This really cool guy came into my booth and he approached me. He's like, do you make all this stuff? And I was like, oh yeah, I do. He's like, man, this is really cool. And he was specifically looking at like the dragons, because I didn't have a lot of like characters out, except for like Oogie Boogie. He saw Oogie Boogie and he was like stoked by him. He really liked the Plague Doctor. He really liked the dragons. And then, as I've found happens quite a bit at these events, at least in Arizona where I am, it does, we were approached by a few people who were doing other markets and were looking to recruit other vendors. So he was one of them, and he was specifically recruiting for a Comic-Con, not like a huge convention like you see other people vend at, but like a smaller, like local to me city Comic-Con. And he gave me the vendor, and I snapped he gave me his flyer, and I snapped a photo of the flyer and I kept it on my phone. And I was like, oh, you know, this might be kind of cool. I showed him some of the Pokemon work that I've done. He was like, yeah, I really like this. You would be perfect there. So I don't know why, but I looked it up again, and I thought the event was going to be on March 1st. Well, we need to move out of this house. My house, by the way, is in a huge state of disarray. We need to move out of this house by end of February. And so I was like, there's no way we could do that, right? Like, I've got the cultural fest that's coming up this weekend, and then we're going to be moving. There's absolutely no way I can do it. Well, he reached out to me again over the weekend. He reached out to me via email because I had given him my card. And then he also reached out to me on Instagram, and he was like, hey, you know, I really want you to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I really love your stuff. And so I asked him about vendor fees. And he sent me over a list of their vendor fees, and all of the vendor fees. So this is going to be like a mostly indoor, but there'll be activities outdoor events. And he sent me, you know, the list of booth fees, and it's $150 for, I believe, a 7x10 space or something like that. For the inside, it's $150. And he happened to mention, like, hey, we also have outside spaces for $75. So I ran it by my husband and I asked him, and he was like, oh, we should probably just do the outside space, but ask him questions. So I did, right? I sent him, I was like, hey, you know, can you tell me what size is the outside booth going to be? Do you get a lot of foot traffic outside? Asked him just a bunch of questions. Well, he came back and he told me that, like, yes, they do get some foot traffic outside because they also are going to be having food trucks. And so all of the food trucks obviously are located outside. But he did say, you know, the majority of like the action is going to be inside. He told me though, if you purchase an inside space, because another question I asked him was, are there going to be any other crocheters? He's like, hey, tell you what, if you purchase an inside space, you will be the only crocheter we admit. If anybody comes who is a crochet person or who's saying they're going to sell crochet items and ask to be a part of the event, we will either deny them if they're all crochet, or if they're going to be selling crochet plus another thing, we'll let them know they have to focus on the other thing. And in a way, I kind of feel bad because I'm like, I'm very much a community over competition person, but I'm also kind of excited because there's other local markets in this area, and crocheters are a dime a dozen. You can go to one where there's maybe 30 vendors and find 4 other crochet booths. You know what I mean? And so I was kind of excited. So I talked to my husband again, and without hesitation, he was like, do it, just do it. So all of that to say, we're going to be at our first con ever. And then after I confirmed with him, I sent over my payment and everything. The other thing was that I actually started to take a look at like the list of people who were showing up at the cons, and I was like pretty impressed. So if you know it, like Bendy and the Ink Machine game movies, there's going to be quite a bit of voice actors from there. There's going to be the Honky Tonk Man, if you're a WWF fan, not WWE, WWF, right? The Honky Tonk Man is going to be there. The lady who does the voice of Peppermint Patty from Peanuts is going to be there. There's quite a bit of artists, like artists who did work on things like Spawn and the Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, cosplayers, like they're all going to be there. So it was a pretty cool like lineup, considering that we are such a small town, or that area like is such a rural area. And so I was like, you know what, yeah, let's do it. 150 bucks. We'll get some cool exposure. But now what do we make, right? So I know I've got a lot of stuff to make because I still am also market prepping for the Copa Cultural Fest this weekend. So as I was sitting and I was brainstorming with my husband, he was like, okay, you gotta make Pokemon, because no matter where you go, Pokemon are a hit. So we started making Pokemon, and the first one I made was this guy right here. I made a Mew. This is a pattern, which is sadly, this is why I brought up the whole copyright thing. It's sadly no longer on Etsy, but it is by Hannah Gurumi. So in that document, I made a link directly to her Etsy shop. But Hannah Gurumi designed what's called a companion pack, and in that companion pack, I purchased it some time ago. You have Eevee, Pikachu, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander. You have, I said Eevee already, right? Yeah, Mew, and then you have Psyduck. And then I think Cubone. You also have a Cubone. So I have made Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander. I made, you know, the starters and Pikachu. I never made Mew. I've never made Psyduck. I've never made Eevee or Cubone. I want to, my goal is to try and make all of them. And in anticipation of wanting to do that, I remembered that cutting out the felt on the eyes was such a chore, and y'all know how I am over cutting out felt after working with these guys. By the way, this was that repeat pattern I told you I had done. Yes, I have another order for Spider-Man, and I have to cut out his felt details. But I went ahead and I messaged her on Etsy, and I said, hey, because I noticed she sold the eyes for her pattern, and I was like, hey, do you still sell like the complete eye sets for your companion pack? She's like, yeah, absolutely. So I asked her about pricing, and I ordered 2 sets. I said, can you just, to make it worth your time, because I don't know like if you keep getting orders for these or not, and if you're going out of your way to make them, can I just get 2 sets of all of the eyes? And she said yes. So these eyes, because I feel like eyes really make the Pokemon or the characters, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more when I show you my next makes, but these are eyes by Hannah Gurumi as well, and I just hot glued them on there. This piece, or this pattern, the head and the body are made together, but you have to sew on the feet, you have to sew on the arms, you have to sew on the ears, and you have to sew on this magnificent tail. But it was just such a joy to make that I didn't mind at all, not at all. And I will tell you, Mew is not even my favorite character. I'm a Bulbasaur girl through and through, but this is too cute. I also didn't realize that I had this color of pink in cotton candy, because when I was making Dumbo, the inner ear specifically calls for cotton candy, and I did not use that color because I didn't think I had it. And then lo and behold, on the way bottom of my shelves, that's where they were. So I had cotton candy, and I used a full skein of it, almost a full skein. I think it was partially used on Mew. So my plan, maybe not this week, because I do want to get more stuff prepped for the Copa Cultural Night Market, and if I do, then I'll start making like more popular ones, but is to make the rest of the people of the Pokemon in that companion pack. But you know what would be a good use of my time, and what is a seller everywhere, is if I could find small Pokemon patterns to make. And I remembered I had these saved on Instagram for forever. And this designer was actually a designer that I saw that kind of triggered my eye to look for all of the copyright character things that were going on. So I went and I purchased the pattern packs because they were on like super discount, and I didn't want to go and screenshot all of the free patterns on Instagram. I think as of today these patterns are still available on her Etsy, but I know she did say she's taking them down. But they are the Chonkymon by Naughty Nat. So I'll show you all the ones I made. I made 2 Pikachu. And this is little tails. I made 2 Pikachus. I made 2 of everything that I made, essentially. I made 2 Squirtles with his little curly tails. I made 2, my personal fave, 2 Bulbasaurs. Look at that. And then I made 2 Charmanders. Oh, girl, your tail needs to be, we need a little corrective action on the tail here. But yeah, these are so quick to make and they're so much fun. My friends, I about had a heart attack because I had been sitting here recording for 36 minutes and then my phone popped up a notification that it was out of space. And I thought I lost the video because when I was looking for it in my photos, I couldn't find it. I re-recorded my intro and then the old video popped up. So I'm really happy. I'm very happy. But I'm also taking that as my sign to speed it along. So as I was saying, the ball bodies on these are super easy to make. They are the same for every Pokemon. And then, you know, of course, you add on the details. Some of the details, like Charmander's tail, Pikachu's tail actually too, which I thought was cool. Actually, all of these tails here, they were all surface crocheted on, and it was really easy to do them. For Squirtle, you had to make the tail separately and sew it on. For Pikachu, it was the ears. Charmander had nothing that you needed to sew on, but obviously, right, you go back in with some acrylic yarn and then you brush it out. And then for Bulbasaur, you surface crochet those cute little ears on, and then you do crochet the bulb separately, and then you sew it on. I really wanted to go, like I said, to buy these because I didn't want to screenshot the free patterns, but I also really wanted to support this maker because she has so many of these patterns. I still have to make Eevee, Jigglypuff, Oddish, Gengar, and Snorlax. Those are the ones I want to make. I want to make 2 of each of them to bring them to the market, and then depending on what I have left after this weekend's market, I'll replenish that for the Comic-Con. I made these all out of Elise Voluto, and I will say, I don't know, tell me what you think. After I had made these, the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle, I wish I had swapped the colors. I wish I had used this blue for Squirtle and this for Bulbasaur, because I think this is more of a blue and this is more of like a green blue, if that makes any sense. This, by the way, is Bernat Blanket. It is not Elise Voluto, because I didn't want to use the same color for these 2. But again, now after I picked that color and now that I'm looking at them, I wish I had swapped colors. Looking at them in the viewfinder, it doesn't look so bad, but I think when I make these again, I will definitely swap those color choices out. Like I said, I want to make the rest of them, or as many as I can. I made 2 of each of the ones I made so far going into Comic-Con, because I'll have 2 weeks to prepare for Comic-Con. After my night market, I would like to maybe have 3 of each of them. So I'll only have to replenish what I sold plus make 1. And like I said, these were pretty quick makes. Once you get that body down, I feel like you could just crank out like all of the bodies and then go back in and do like the detailing work on them. The other thing is that of course, as I was like, oh, I got accepted to a Comic-Con, let me go see what other people make and bring and get some inspiration from them, I realized that April from the Cozy Book, I had put out a Pokemon roundup, and she makes the Chonkymon in her roundup. So initially I was thinking I want to have 3 of each. I'll have 2 with the safety eyes, and then I'll have the third one, because these are like nice and small and tiny with embroidered eyes. But I feel like there are some where you just need to have the embroidered eyes. Like Bulbasaur, I don't think he looks bad with the safety eyes, but I think he would look even better with that like very characteristic red eye that he has. Jigglypuff definitely does not look like Jigglypuff with the regular safety eyes. I haven't made her yet, but in my mind I can tell. Also because I see what she looks like in the pattern pictures versus what she looks like when April made her and embroidered the eyes, you know, with those beautiful light blue eyes. So I feel like for Jigglypuff, I'm going to have to do the embroidered eyes, which isn't a bad problem to have. But I have this, I know myself, and so once I've done it for Jigglypuff, I'm gonna want to go back in and do it for, maybe not Pikachu, because I think Pikachu's eyes are pretty basic anyway, but I'm definitely gonna want to do it for like Bulbasaur and give him the red eyes. But yeah, those are the Chonkymon I made. Again, I don't think this pattern is available anymore on Etsy, but I did link Naughty Nat in the Google Doc in her Etsy page below. So if you can go on there and get it, like I think right now these patterns are only like $1 or $1.50, and they come in packs of like 3 and 4. So you know what I mean? Support her. Go support her for all of the freaking hard work that she did. I'm going to take these to markets and I'm going to sell them for $15 each. Mew, I didn't say, but I saw all of my Pokemon that size for about for $45 each, and they've sold really well for me, so I'm going to keep the price point at $45 each. I make them out of Premier Parfait Chunky, and so they're a pretty good size for that amount. And then I've told you before, Spider-Mans I sell for $40, and I'm going to make a Spider-Man and a Venom, and I'm going to see if I can make a Spawn with that same body pattern. But there's also, like I said, this part of me that's just in complete panic mode, because I'm like, do I need to hurry up and go and get these patterns because they're copywritten characters and then they're not going to be available anymore? What do I do? Yeah, that's just it's, I don't know what to do. I also just don't know what to do because it's my first con. But all of that being said, that was everything I made. So not a bad make. 2, 4, 6, 8 Chonkymon, 1 Little Daddy, 1 Not Dumbo, 1 Spider-Man, a Mew, and a Boba. That's not bad. That's not bad. I'm also currently working on a pattern test for Crafty Guam. I know you don't know what these are, but one day you will. She does a lot of patterns that are inspired by Chamorro culture, Guam, CNMI, Micronesian culture. And so March is actually the month of Guam history. And I'm thinking I may actually do a video of all patterns that remind me of home, because this is officially my 10th year away from home and I really, really, really miss it. So I don't know if I'll do that video in March around Chamorro month, or if I'll do it in June, which is gonna be my actual 10th year anniversary away from home. But yeah, that is all that I have for you guys. If you have made it to the end, I would love, love, love if you left me, not an emoji this time, maybe if you left me a comment about like, if you've ever vended at a con, what patterns you think would do really, really well at a con. I know I want to make a Ninja Turtles, because that's another thing that's going to be very well represented there. There's just a whole bunch of things I want to make. My imagination is going crazy. But if you could leave me a comment letting me know, like I said, if you've been to a con, either as a vendor or just as a participant, if you want to share any patterns you think I should make to go there. Yeah, let me know what you feel about all of the copywritten character drama that's going on in the crochet community right now. And above all else, if you liked this video and if you want to see more, please consider liking this video, subscribing, and just sticking around and being part of our flock here at the Quack House. Next week, I will see you again to give you a little market recap and let you know how my second year at the Copa Cultural Night Market went back. And then I'm moving, and so there will definitely be a moving video and a new craft space setup video. I don't know if that'll be 1 or 2 videos, but that's all coming up in the future. So if any of that interests you, stick around. Oh, why did I get so creepy? Stick around. It's gonna be great. Bye.